You probably already see all these aluminum molds. These are the things we're gonna use. These large ones, those are for compression molding, and these smaller ones, they are for injection molding. And we have two clipboard molds. So this is kind of like top half and then the bottom half. And then we also have one cutting board mold. So we'll use a flat plate as the back part of this mold. Okay. So what I'm going to do, as always, we got acetone. We're just gonna use the white acetone and the paper towel to clean up the surface, and then we'll apply mold release on these compression molding molds. So yeah, like always, just kind of spread, clean up. This is the Freckle 770 MC. So it's a kind of mold release, like what we always do. We're just gonna apply a thin layer of this mold release on top of our compression molding mold. Okay. Well, I hope this thing still works.
That might be the broken one.
No, all of them are broken. This bottle comes with two sets. Okay. Done.
So Aaron has some mold plates for the clipboard. They've sprayed mold release on, and they're going to put those in the oven. And so he can stack them on top or just put it right there, and they'll cure the mold release. Okay, so we've got a mold that's already been cleaned by Aaron and Patrick, and we're going to take some of our shredded plastic and dump in there, and we're going to dump more than it would appear likely. And so this mold, I'm not going to really mix it, and we need to dump probably about 1.5 or 2 times as much as we think we'll need. Okay, and then we're going to put this plate here. Again, it's the Teflon coated fiberglass aluminum covered plate. Nothing sticks to it. We're going to put that on top, and then we're going to stick it in the heated press. Here is the aluminum plate on there. I spread the plastic around, and we'll stick it in the press as soon. Okay. So we think we may not have enough plastic in here, shredded plastic, and so ideally, if it was all perfect, oops, there it is. The plastic is really hot right now, the thermoplastic, and so I just want to pop open. Don't ever do this without oven mitts on. There it goes. Okay, it looks like, so all that milk jug plastic is there, so it's all clear. so we don't have enough right there. And if we put it in the middle, it'll flow out. Plus, this is pretty hot, so that was my fault for second guessing myself. I had enough in here and then I took some out. Okay. All right here too. So basically what we need to do is just put this back in the mold at this point, and let it heat up, and then press it down, and then we'll clamp it. Okay, so this is what happens when I second guess. So after I turned it off, I took some of the plastic out. Okay, so we are going to put this back on. We're going to put it back in there. So just to point out a couple of things, this is some excess plastic the others had. Once it's cooled down enough, we put it here, some pieces, and then we can shred that or remelt that. So right now everything we have here is a high density polyethylene. So I'm going to stick it back in here. We'll have to let it heat in the press for another 10 minutes or so, just to melt that current plastic. If we had left it in the oven, then we wouldn't have had to let it there, but it's got to heat up someplace. We have another clipboard we'll show you where we did put shredded plastic, and it's heating in the oven right now. So we will pump this up just tight enough so we have a good thermal connection, but we're not trying to compress it down right now. We need to let it heat before we compress it. So this is compression molding, but it's not automated. Okay, so if you can see right there, we're just touching it, but we're going to let it sit there and let it, the new plastic we added heat up and then start melting. Okay. So here's a clipboard mold, and we are going to we'll put this in the oven and it'll melt down, and this is typically better if I leave it in a big pile. So we're just going to leave it, oh sorry, it didn't turn out quick. So we're going to let this melt down in the oven. So we get kind of a starburst effect if we leave it in, they leave it like this and then melts down, so that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so we have in here, and you can see the other shopping bag was all melted down, and the stuff we put on the plate was all melted down. There's some mold that we're going to preheat it, and so we're going to try to make one clipboard this way. And we're going to use the melted shopping bag on another clipboard. We could have taken the melted shopping bag, compressed it down to less than a 1/4 inch thick, and then shredded that material. Okay, we have a little more plastic that has come out there. We're a little bit above 5,000 pounds. And you can see there, the upper plat is 324, the bottom one, kind of hard to tell, 323. So we haven't changed much there. Anyway, we'll wait for a couple more minutes before we take this out, and then we'll clamp the top and bottom pieces together here to show you, to give you a good part. This would be going to be a cutting bar, a cutting plate. Okay, so the cutting board in its mold is you can see it has more plastic coming out, and I increased the pressure a little bit there, and you can see the temperatures are both good at 325 or above, looks like. Anyway, going to take it out, so I'm going to turn this over to Aaron to hold that. And I need to put my gloves on here. We're going to lower this. And we're going to pull this out. And we have plastic sleeves now on pretty much every side there, but I'm quite sure we got it. And so we need to put some clamps on it here. To make sure that we get a good part. We'll show you one later where we don't put the clamps on it. So we're going to use 3 clamps here. So again, it's pretty hot, so I'm going to and then we've got a large fan, and we'll put it in front of that fan for this to cool down. Actually, we'll just put it, this one right there, so it gets some airflow on both top and bottom. Okay, let me turn it off there. Okay. So here is the shredded stuff. It's been heated up there. It's very hot now. We won't put the top half of the mold on. We are going to put this Teflon coated sheet on, and we're going to put this in the press and let it force down and get all the spots out right there. And then we will clamp it up again. And we can put some pressure on this right away because it's already heated up. The top plate wasn't heated, but it's aluminum next to the platen, and it will go up pretty quick. And this is just to get it to the rough shape. So if we should see some plastic oozing out the edges here soon, we want to have a little bit extra. And if you look at the gauge right there, we've gone up much higher than before. Okay, and it's going down. That means this is viscoelastic material. It's heated, it's flowing, it's compressing, or it's moving away from the pressure. So if we look up there, we have plastic about ready to come out the edges. Okay, so we'll turn it off and we'll check in a minute. You can turn it off now. Do this right here. Okay, so I've got this piece of plastic over there, and we have the air hooked up here now. And so I can use this to push it down. And you can do that. And you see these forces, but again, this is hot and it's flowing, it's creeping. So that's really what creep does, but this is a high temperature, so it does pretty quickly. So you can see here's some plastic that's squeezed out. We're going to squish it flatter. Here is the other clipboard that we're letting that cool down a little bit. Then we're going to take it out and trim it, and then put the other half of the max mold on it. This other one should be ready to get out. It takes about a half an hour to cool down because there's a lot of mass here. So this is kind of a rough one. You can see if they talk about sink marks, you can see on angles where it's kind of shrunk in there. We didn't put any clamping force on this, but for this, and this is still pretty hot, but we're just going to trim around the edges, and then we'll put the other mold on it, other mold half, to get us a better part. Okay, so this is still pretty soft. It's easy to cut, but so you can see we got some scraps, and we'll remelt that. But you can see, even though there was quite a bit of milk jug plastic, it takes whatever. It's kind of a white or clear. It takes whatever else, and so we had the orange and blue, whatever. You see a little bit of milk jug plastic. So this is our blank, and we'll do this. We're gonna put a couple of these little pieces right here in the back, and then we'll put this in the mold and we'll press it down. Go ahead. Okay, so this is our first cutting board, and you can see it's still a little bit warm, but it's we can undo the clamp, and we'll show you one later with what happens if we don't use the clamps. Actually, that rough, the pre-molded part didn't do it. So okay, so this is the back of it, looking pretty good so far. So our aluminum is we don't want to scratch that, but the HDPE shrinks some. So we have a little bit of spiral pattern here where we dumped it in. So at this point, really all we need to do is just trim this up. So we're gonna trim this right here, and you can see there's plastic that went through the air holes. I believe that Patrick talked about the air holes when he was cleaning. Whoops. We will run this through a belt sander, kind of clean up the edges so I don't have to be that precise right now. So I wanted to point out, so here this is plastic coming through the air holes, and if you've seen new car tires, you have little threads of rubber coming off. It's the same thing, it's plastic coming through that. So, and we'll trim out this tier 2 and use the belt sander on the sides. But here is a finished cutting board from the shredded plastic we shredded earlier today. Okay. Okay, so we have this shopping bag plastic that we have squished down here, mixed, let it sit in the press for a little while, and we've got more than what we need. So basically got a big blob of taffy, I guess you could call it. We're gonna decide what's our prettiest side. I don't know. So we'll put it here. We got more than what we need, and who knows, maybe we can be a little bit, we'll put some strange stuff on it. How about some black? I'm not an artist, so you can, my brother's the one that's the artist. Okay, so we're going to just take this and we're going to compress that down and put that back in here. And we're going to compress it. We'll have quite a bit flow out the edges, and then we will let it sit for a while. So you can see we got plastic flowing out, and so you can see this is the force to go up to. You can going down, and so that's creep. If it was a room temperature. So we got this excess plastic, kind of like some taffy here. We're just gonna cut that off so it's easier to deal with later. And we'll let this we'll put it back in there and mix this. You notice we got a number of layers here. Okay, but this kind of has some memory, and so even though the plastic is heated up, we still need to give it some time to flow into all the spots so we don't have voids. And okay, anyway, good enough.